is about the Bola Ahmed Tinubu issues and what the APC has been saying. It's been years of scrutiny. It's about 30 years or so since this incident happened. And critical appraiser of the antecedent of the former governor of Lagos State and the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, and that is continued. There have been series of questions on drug-related matter and money laundering incident that happened in the United States. A court paper which resurfaced again from the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois surfaced, where there are claims that Bola Tinubu's encounter with American authorities over allegations of narcotics, trafficking, and money laundering. Well, yesterday we had Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, an official spokesperson of the Tinubu campaign. He was on the program where he dismissed the commentaries and some of the issues raised by Nigerians on the matter. But tonight, the People's Democratic Party, one of the major opposition party in Nigeria, says they are interested. And a lawyer and official spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Daniel Bwala, he joins me here in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Why is your party interested in this matter?
Well, because yesterday the spokesman for APC reeled out falsehood. He misled Nigerians in the area of interpreting the law. He misled Nigerians in the area of marshalling out the facts. He was economical with respect to certain documents. So let me put it this way. The documents that are flying, but let me even say this before the document. When you show interest to run for office...
The first question that I asked is why your party is interested.
Yes, we're interested because as a political party, we are all gunning for the post of the presidency. Everybody, Atiku has thrown himself to the field. Same with Asiwaju. And facts came to the public fora, and they misled Nigerians. It behoves of our party to come to the media space, join issues, and distill facts, and reel out the truth as they are, which is why we're here today. And that's why I say, first of all, their first quarrel is that this thing happened 30 years ago. It doesn't matter if it is 100 years. If you are vying for a public office, you must be willing to be scrutinized. The reason is because the man who will become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that's why they have what they call security vetting, must be somebody that the nation have an idea of his life from when it started to where he is today. So he does not become an object of blackmail or a national security threat. So the fact that it came after 30 years is a non-issue.
So let's take it from one after the other, because there are a lot of issues from the matter of forfeiture and whether or not there was a kind of plea bargain, because these are some of the issues that the Leonel Sake dismissed yesterday. Perhaps you have alternative facts to some of this matter in law, because he said there was no, it was a forfeiture, but I mean, there was no indictment. What indictment means, you probably will be able also to shed light. A plethora of issues that he raised, which I'd like you to respond to. But first and foremost, let's dwell on the premise of what happened. It's called statute of limitation, isn't it? I mean, so when something has happened over the past years, and now is happening in other jurisdiction, does it affect that person in Nigeria, on the Nigerian soil?
No, the question of statute of limitation does not actually arise because, one, if it was a crime, it was committed under the laws of the United States, and the laws of Nigeria is different from the laws of the U.S.
Was it a crime?
No, as if it is a crime.
I'm asking if it was a crime.
If it was a crime. You're asking if it was a crime?
The incident, that scenario that happened.
You know, money laundering, dealing with narcotics are criminal offenses set out by separate laws in the United States. The U.S. government introduced what they call non-conviction-based recovery. Because the way they operate is, if they are going to prosecute you on a crime that investigation suggests, they are going to spend a lot of money. And whatever is the proceed of crime that they are targeting, they may not be able to get a hold of it until the conclusion of the trial. But because under non-conviction-based recovery, the idea is to recover as fast as possible the proceeds of crime, they now apply what we call the forfeiture proceedings. Forfeiture is a civil proceeding. Yes, it is, not a criminal proceedings. But the elements that are argued before the civil court under forfeiture proceedings are elements of crime. It is like election petition tribunal. It's a sui generis. It is just the proceedings that is civil, but the ingredient upon which the prosecutor will convince the judge that this asset and this asset and this asset are proceeds of crime under the laws of Illinois are criminal elements.
So let me ask, from that scenario, was Bola Tinubu indicted?
Yes, indictment is an allegation. There's a difference between conviction. Yes, he was indicted. But was he convicted criminally? The answer is no.
Because he didn't go to trial.
Pardon?
He did not go to trial.
Yes, so under non-conviction-based recovery, there are three types of plea, right? There is a plea of guilt, there is a not guilty, and there is no contest. If Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at the time that indictment was brought before the judge, decided to contest it, it will go into full trial, and if the elements are proven, it may lead to his prosecution. What most defendants do in the US is that they don't want a situation where they will be further exposed. So they can afford to let go of the asset. That's why they enter what we call non-contest, what they call nolle contendere in under Latin, that you're not contesting. You're not saying, I am not guilty, I'm also not contending. So whatever you see, you can just carry it. But here lies the issue, and Nigerians must know. It is the moral burden that the nation is confronted by. Somebody who has not denied, has in fact cooperated with the government of Illinois, right, about a proceed of crime traceable to his account. Because if you look at the document, and I think, Sheldon, if you give me 1 minute, you understand that.
Go ahead.
Three separate documents. There is one that is the affidavit. The affidavit set out the facts and what the prosecutor was seeking to achieve. Number two, there is a verdict. The verdict is the finding of the court. So the affidavit established a probable cause, and the verdict says that the probable cause has been established under the relevant laws, that those assets that they were seizing were actually proceeds of crime. What they do under non-conviction-based recovery is that once that ex parte application is moved, the judge must say that the defendant be put on notice. Who are the defendants? If you look at that proof of service, which is another document, you will see United States of America as plaintiff and Bola Tinubu as a defendant.
It's actually the first document on this set of documents. If my producer can go back to it, and is on the left corner of the screen.
Right.
If you can go back to that so that the viewers can see.
Very important. So when you see that proof of service presupposes, you will see in clear terms the United States government and the defendant.
So Bola Tinubu was a defendant in that matter?
The account, yes, he is a defendant because he's linked. You see, the owner of the account and the account are like two siamese. They are umbilically bound. That's why even if you look at that, when the accounts were established as defendant, they say belonging to Bola Tinubu. And when the court said that the defendant be asked to come and show reason why it should not be finally forfeited, who are the people, the defendant the court is talking about? Digits, account number comes to court. No, the owners of the account should come to court. And Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not contest. He, in fact, cooperated to release it. This is where he cannot separate himself from the account.
So now, there is an argument which the learned Sikh, Mr. Keyamo, argued yesterday on the program. He said forfeiture doesn't mean penalty. And it doesn't mean a fine, because I made reference to a portion of the Nigerian Constitution which made reference to the status of anyone who wants to seek the exalted office of the president, and whether or not such persons are being involved in any kind of indictment or convictions in the past, fine or penalty or whatsoever. But he said that forfeiture in that nature wasn't a penalty. Actually, but in law, was that a forfeiture? One.
Yes, forfeiture.
In law, that forfeiture, is it a penalty?
Yes, it is. You are forfeiting what rightfully you would have argued as your own. Why are you forfeiting it? Because investigation proved a link between you and that item, and that the item relates to narcotics. So narcotics and money laundering is a criminal offense. In fact, when he was fighting you yesterday, he was very unprofessional, quite frankly, because in our discipline of law, you don't look at your colleague, whether he's a student or a lawyer, and say, take pen and paper, and I'm teaching you. Very insulting.
You know the thing is, in this our own business, we have been trained never to be emotional, never to draw anything to yourself, because it is not about the journalist. It is about the matter in which it was discussed. So as far as I'm concerned, that was a non-issue for me. But the fact remains that we need to stay on the issue.
I agree.
The Nigerian people need to understand this matter, and we cannot erode them or to bamboozle them out of the issue. We need to stay on it.
Let me tell you.
So what matters to Nigerians, and the reason why I'm sitting on this chair today is because of the Nigerian. I'm being empowered by the Nigerian Constitution.
I agree.
And so the fact remains that those matters that Mr. Keyamo raised yesterday, whether or not you agree with those matters, and whether or not in his own argument they were right in your own eyes.
No, everything he said yesterday, we are wrong. You see, I taught in the law school. I'm sorry that I have to say that. So we have several courses we teach in law school. Professional ethics is one of them. It is not enough for you to know the law. How you dispense the law, how you argue the law is as important as the knowledge of the law itself. And once you're losing an argument, we experience that sometimes in court. Once someone is losing argument in court, the next thing you do is you now descend into legal gutter to begin to challenge. There's no basis for you to say, apart from 2 prosecutors in Nigeria, there's no prosecutor that comes. One, unprofessional because it's champatious. Number 2 is it's patently false because you will count 30 prosecutors in Nigeria, you will not get to him. Number 3, consistently he used the term, I used my trained mind, trained prosecutor. Who trained him? He worked under Gani Fawehinmi. Gani Fawehinmi was throughout his life not known as a prosecutor. He was a human rights defense attorney. And when he said, I'm using my prosecutory or my intelligent or my prosecution mind, there are certain things a prosecutor looks at whenever he's confronted with a case. Number 1, the fact pattern. And number 2, inference. A man who was brought to the court, his account was brought to the court. At the time, the prosecutor's mind I'm talking about now, where was he working? How much was he earning? How much was the amount that the prosecutor sought to seize?
There's the question mark on the source of the money.
So that's what a prosecutor thinks. I'm suggesting to his prosecutory mind. If the prosecutory mind is functional, these are the thoughts. How much was Bola earning? How much he was earning, even if you multiply it by a number of years, the prosecutor will say, is it enough to have that large sum of money around that time?
So you're raising this matter on the answer that needs to be gotten from the APC and the presidential candidate on where the source of that money, isn't it?
For the Nigerian people, the question is not just about the source is important, but for the Nigerian people is, there is still a cloud around drug-related offenses and drug-related activity with somebody who wants to be the #1 citizen of the country. And I will tell you why. Because if you look at opium in Nigeria, very recently, you saw the massive busting of cocaine in Nigeria. This idea of drugs and narcotics is a terrible case all over the world. And if someone has that questionable character, is elected as a president, what it means is that it will embolden people who are into those activities. That is why the person has to come out clean. That is point number 1. Point number 2, and very important, apart from the drug, if you look at part 799 and part 680, 680 is a Court of Appeal case, 799 is a Supreme Court case. We are the spokesman, apart from the narcotic case, many years ago went to court and also challenged the certificates of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In part 680, actually volume 12, Nigerian Weekly Law Report, part 680, if you look at page 200 and paragraph 10, these are the words of Festus Keyamo. He said, in a final analysis, however, then he now alluded to all the certificates that he laid out in that affidavit. He said, Bola Ahmed Tinubu presented a dubious certificate.
All right, so
he has not refrained from that, even though the judgment of that court dismissed that application because he did not attach affidavit under a summons. But one fact is clear, he has not come out today to say those things that I said in that case, I no longer believe them.
Let me quote part of what Mr. Keyamo said.
Right.
I'd like to get your response. He said, the document on the left, and I'd like my producers to, I told you to get this on standby so that, you know, people can be able to, understand, as we did yesterday, to follow the conversation. And that's perhaps the very first page of the first set of the document. He says, document on the left is the originating process, which indicates Tinubu was not a party to the case in rem. The right is a summons to the owner of the accounts to appear to defend the accounts, but does not make him a party. It is like a director appearing to defend a company. That is what Mr. Keyamo said.
It is, and he said that, and he believes that.
This is not the right document. Please, can you put the document, the initial, the very first set of document? Yeah, that's it.
He's saying that it is like, he's comparing it is like a director defending a company. Is the director not an alter ego of the company? Why do you think few days ago there was a judgment that Abdul Rashid Bawa should be committed to prison? Did he, as a person, alleged in that something violated the law? But because he was the chairman, the alter ego, who is the owner of the account? How do you separate the owner and the account? Do you know the doctrine of confidentiality that exists between a banker and a customer relating to the account? Without an order of court, the bank does not have any right to disclose the details of a financial transaction. That is how inseparable your account is with you. And so when the account was joined as a defendant, by the time the ex parte order was granted, the court said, let the defendant come and establish why it should not be given the final forfeiture. Who are the defendants? The owners of the account.
Let me now ask you again. There is a letter originated from the office, written, directed to the then Inspector General of Police. If you bring back that letter, the very blurry one, which was written by an attaché of the United States Embassy, which they were trying to find out about Bola Tinubu. And this is what Tafa Balogun was. He was written to his office. He was the then Inspector General of Police. This, in some way, the argument is that Bola Tinubu was exonerated by this document.
No, he was not. Is that what you're supposed to say?
That is the argument.
Now, if you look,
that they don't have any record of Bola Tinubu.
That's because under civil forfeiture proceedings, as you can see in that order, because in part of the document, you will see the order of the court. After the order was given and the money was to be taken, underneath, you will see case closed. In other words, it is like you have convicted, I'm just using the term like in criminal case. When you have finished convicting somebody and you sentence him, do you retry him again? That means that case, as far as that case is concerned, it is conclusively conclusively concluded, not in favor of Bola because he had to forfeit that. That's number one. Number two, I heard him yesterday saying it is the party who are just willing to know because they don't want to field him for the second time and they want to be, don't deceive Nigerians. His former boss, what is his name? The human rights activist, Gani was the one that started this case. He applied to the court for mandamus. He even asked to be given the right to prosecute the matter. It was Gani that sparked off this issue, and it was a legal matter. That is why the party was compelled. Even it was around that time that Festus Keyamo also went to court and said, in addition to it, that the man's certificate too is a problem.
We need to wrap up now. On the final note, what is your summation on this matter?
I am afraid that the conclusion of this case is that from the eyes of the law, especially if you look at the constitutional provision you cited, Bola may be disqualified from contesting.
By who?
No, if the matter goes to court, interpreting that provision of the Constitution, because the finding in that civil forfeiture proceedings has ended against him. That's why he forfeited that. And narcotics and money laundering, whether in America or in Nigeria, is a criminal offense.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Bwala. I guess the conversation continues with Nigerians. You are the one who decide anyways. The millions of you who have taken your permanent voter cards, you will decide who becomes your next president. Thank you so much indeed, everyone, for tonight's program. I appreciate it. Until I see you again tomorrow at 7 p.m., I'm Sean Akimale. Bye-bye, and God bless Nigeria.